Which is the best opening for a beginner to learn for the black and also for the white pieces? Oh, I'm just from reading one of the most recent comments from one of my dearest subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, the opening that I'm about to show you is the best opening for beginners. Well, that's in my opinion, because I believe it's very easy to understand and also to play, not to mention that it is also a great choice for champions. So simply start with pawn to e4. Then black will respond with e5. Then instead of knight to f3 or knight c3, again you play bishop c4. Now hey, this video is not about the bishop's opening again, so don't skip. One thing that I like about this opening is that from here you will only be seeing top played moves. E.g., let me turn on the Lichess database so that I give you much confidence in this opening. Okay, so after bishop c4, tricking our opponent as if we want to play the bishop's opening, the top played move by far is knight to f6. This is what you're going to see most of your opponents playing, simply attacking the pawn on e4. And here I just recommend that you go knight to c3. Now this is called the Vienna game, Stanley variation. Now again, when you look into the Lichess database, bishop c5 is by far the most played move because it's just natural to develop your kingside pieces first. Obviously black wants to castle short, and right in this position, please, I want you to stop what you're doing and watch. After bishop c5, I recommend that you first of all delay the move pawn to d3, which most people play. Instead, I recommend you go pawn to f4 right away. Again, you can see for yourselves, pawn to d6 is by far the top played move. We are just seeing the top played moves. Then here, instead of knight f3, what I want you guys to do is to play pawn to d3. At best, just visualize this pawn structure and the light squared bishop, which is the only piece we developed from the king side. So in this opening, we deliberately ignore the development of these two pieces for a purpose. Watch. Again, the top played move here is knight g4. Even in OTB classical matches, by the way. Now wait a second. Right in this position, I don't like what most beginners and intermediate level players do. So they go knight h3, which is a very bad move. Don't play this. I'll show you the right continuation. This is bad because black can now simply go queen h4, that's check. And wherever the king goes, knight f2 is the idea by black, simply attacking two of our pieces, the queen and the rook on h1. And if let's say we play queen e1, thinking we are pinning the knight to the queen, there is bishop takes on h3. Then after g takes h3, black takes with check. King g1, there's a mate coming on h1. So please don't play knight to h3 in this position. So instead of the poor knight to h3, which is a losing mistake, just go pawn to f5. Pawn to f5 blocks the vision of the light squared bishop, and so you can clearly see that we are attacking the knight on g4 with our queen. And again, if I show you the Lichess database, knight to f2 is by far the most played move. Black will play this move because they think they are attacking two of your pieces, but we have this sneaky move, queen h5. And this position is the main area of our discussion in this video. So we deliberately ignored the development of our kingside pieces, the knight and the rook, except for the bishop, so that we may possibly reach this position where black's knight is on f2 attacking our rook on h1. In this position, there are three moves that you are going to see your opponents playing, either castling short, pawn to g6, or just knight takes h1. First of all, let's start with the most useless move, knight takes h1. Well, this leads to mate in one after queen takes f7 checkmate. So clearly we can see that there is no such a thing as a free lunch, which is why knight takes h1 is not a good move. Alright, what if black tries to castle short? The best continuation according to Stockfish is just to simply go bishop g5, but the move that I want you guys to try out is knight to f3, which is also an okay move, because right now we want to free up our rook and put it on f1. We also have ideas of castling long in the near future. So again, as you can see, according to the Lichess database, knight takes h1 is by far the most played move. And trust me, this is only the 8th move of the game, and the game is almost over. We are simply going to play knight g5, intending to checkmate on h7. If black plays pawn to h6, we simply take on f7, attacking the queen on d8 and also planning to do a discover check after taking on h6. So rook takes f7 is what most people play, after which you take back with the queen and that's check. King h8 may be played. And how do we find the best move in this position? Please see that if black's queen was not on d8, let's say if it was on d7, we would have checkmated black on g8. And this is how we find moves. So the right move here is to play pawn to f6. Because if queen takes f6, now we'll simply checkmate black on g8, since there will be no piece to defend this square. Not to mention that we are also planning to checkmate on g7. So g takes f6 is forced, after which we simply take the other pawn and there's absolutely nothing that black can do to stop the checkmate. They can try this desperado move, bishop f2 check, we go king f1, and next we're going to mate on g7. So that's just one line after rook takes f7. Let's go back. Alright, so back to this position, black just took the free rook and then we play knight g5 intending to checkmate on h7. Then black plays the only move h6. Then we take on f7 intending to do a discovery check because our bishop is on c4. And then black takes on f7. Then we take back. Instead of king h8, it doesn't matter whether black goes king h7 here, because again remember there's a mate coming on g8. If only we can manage to deflect the defender of the g8 square. And that's why we play bishop g5 in this position, trying to deflect black's queen from guarding the g8 square. And trust me, with this move there's nothing that black can do, because we're just going to take the black queen. And so if h takes g5, there's a mate in one after queen h5. So this is just how beautiful this opening is. And let's go back. Alright, so back to this position. Remember we just played pawn to f5, inviting black to play knight f2, which they would do most of the times, thinking they are attacking two of our big pieces. But here we just play queen h5 and we just finished looking at what happens after castle shot by black. I recommended the move knight to f3, but just like I mentioned earlier, bishop g5 is the top engine move, which you can also try. Black cannot play pawn to f6 because this pawn is pinned by our bishop on c4 to the king. So again, it doesn't matter where the queen goes, queen d7 let's say. Here we just simply play knight d5. If pawn to f6, there is a double check coming by the bishop and the knight, so the king will have to move to h8 and then we'll mate on h7. So clearly pawn to f6 is not possible in this position, which is why you're going to see them try pawn to h6, trying to chase at least one of our minor pieces away from their territory. But here we just simply play knight f6 check, plus attacking the poor queen on d7. If g takes f6, well, we simply go queen g6 check, because this pawn on f7 is pinned to the king by our bishop, so it cannot take our queen. So this is one common pin that you need to know in chess. So queen g6 check, after king h8 we have bishop takes on f6 checkmate. So this is why bishop g5 is also worth trying instead of knight to f3 in this position. Anyways, again after bishop g5 attacking the queen, let's say queen d7, then we play knight d5. Black may also try to play pawn to b5, attacking our bishop, just a desperado move. But again we have knight to f6 check, g takes f6. Now here we can't play queen g6 check since the pawn is not on h6 this time. So just simply take with your bishop, and here there's a mate in one coming, simply queen g5 and queen g7 checkmate. But if black plays another desperado move, bishop e3, stopping queen g5 check, you just simply play knight h3. Now you want to capture the knight on f2 and then go queen g4 check with the same idea of mating on g7. E.g. if h6 by black, again we simply go queen g6, that's checkmate, because the pawn is still pinned by our bishop to the king. Going back, instead of pawn to h6, if b takes c4, well, we simply take the knight, and after bishop takes f2 with check, we take the bishop, and there's absolutely nothing that black can do to save the game. So this is just how trappy this opening can be if black is not careful. And so let's look at the last line. Now, do you know that there's a way in which you can play the same lines that I'm showing you now with black pieces? If you want to know how, you can simply check the video which is in the card above, where you can still play these same lines that I'm showing you now with black pieces. And that's how we learn how to play chess so easily. Alright, so to run you through one more time, e4, e5, bishop c4, knight f6, the top played move, knight c3, bishop c5. Then instead of going pawn to d3, we again play pawn to f4, the Vienna game Stanley variation. Then black plays pawn to d6 and we go pawn to d3. So once again we are back to our main favorable position, where black plays knight g4, intending to plant his knight on f2 next. And once again I said don't play knight h3, simply go pawn to f5 to cut the communication between the bishop and the knight. And after knight f2, attacking your queen and the rook on h1, just simply go queen h5 and the game is in your hands. So we looked at what happens if knight takes on h1 and also if black castles short. But what if black plays pawn to g6 in this position? Well, after pawn to g6, I just recommend you go queen h6. You are going to see this move pawn to g6 in classical matches, especially in tournaments. If g takes f5, you can simply go bishop g5 attacking the queen. If queen d7 for example, you simply go queen g7, rook f8, bishop h6, trying to checkmate on f8. Now please note that the queen can't go to e7, otherwise knight d5 is coming. So black has to play d5 for example, indirectly defending the rook on f8 with his bishop. Well, here we just simply take with the knight. Once again, the plan is to go knight f6 check and also winning the queen, so queen d6 might be played. You go knight f6 anyways. King d8, we take the rook. And after a queen exchange, bishop takes on f8. You can clearly see that we are now attacking the only piece which is defending the knight on f2. So if bishop takes f8, we simply take the knight on f2. And once again, you can clearly see that there is no way we can lose this game. First of all, we are up a piece. We have 5 pieces against 4. Not to mention that we are going to take all these pawns with our pieces and we already have a passer along the h file. So this is clearly not good for black. Going back, instead of castling short, black plays pawn to g6 and then we play queen h6. Here we just looked at what happens after g takes f5, but black can also play knight takes h1 here. And after this we can just simply go bishop g5 once again, and if pawn to f6, well, we take the pawn on g6, completely sacrificing our bishop so that we can now push pawn to g7. The idea is just to take the rook on h8 and promote to a queen. Let's say if king d7 for example, we go queen e6 check. This is already losing for black. There is nothing that black can do. It's just a matter of repositioning our queen on a better square, and that's when we take the rook on h8. It doesn't even matter if queen takes, because we have all these ideas. Bishop d5 check, and these pawns will be coming, will soon checkmate black whether he likes it or not. And that's why in all of these variations, knight takes on h1 is nearly impossible. So let's go back and see the last thing that black can do. So again, back to this position. So queen h5 we go, black plays pawn to g6, and then we go queen h6. So instead of knight takes h1, black may also play this computer move, pawn to c6, which is very difficult to see anyways. But here we just simply take on g6 once again. We just want to open the king side. F takes g6 is played, queen g7 again, rook f8. Now wait a second. In this position, queen takes h7 leads to a position where you will need to sacrifice your queen but still have a favorable and winning position, while bishop h6 leads to a normal equal game with many chances for black to blunder. Let me show you. Instead of taking on h7, going into a line where we sacrifice our queen for a better position, I recommend you go bishop h6. That is if you don't want to give up your queen for a better position. And after queen e7 stopping us from capturing on f8, we just simply trade off the queens, knight a4 attacking the bishop so that we take the knight on f2, and then black plays knight takes h1, we take the bishop, d takes c5, knight f3. We are simply going to win the knight on h1 after, let's say, knight d7 by black, and then we play king e2. There's absolutely nothing that black can do. From here, it's only white who should win the game. We have many open lines, and too much space for our pieces. Anyway, so this was just about everything you needed to know in the Vienna game Stanley variation. I hope you enjoyed this video. If at all you did, please remember to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You can also check out the link for my website in the description down below, where you can purchase my courses at very affordable prices.